Welcome to Backstage Pass. I'm CJ. Today I am here with Kurt Sauer. Excited to hear more about his story and hear about his pathway from growing up to here at KLRE. Let's jump in. Kurt, where did you grow up?
You know what? I grew up in central Minnesota, Sartell, Minnesota.
That's good. Where does northern Minnesota start?
After that, I would say Brainerd.
Okay.
We're in kind of I always related to where I did, and that was called the fly-through zone of what we know.
All right. Sartell is. Did you go to Sartell High School?
You know what? No, I went to my grade school in Sartell. Sartell didn't actually have hockey, and I played sports, so I had to actually transfer to St. Cloud Apollo.
Okay, let's go back further though. Growing up, were you only child, had siblings, or
No, bunch of kids. Out in the fourth of six.
fourth of six?
Yeah, 3 brothers, 2 sisters. I always tell everybody when I grew up, that's the era, best era to grow up. You know, no cell phones. Come home when the street lights go on. Across the road, we had the school property, 300 some acres. We had 20 acres in the back, living in the middle of town. Mississippi River, Wadtab Creek, all over town with our bikes.
I'm just trying to picture this. So it's not farm area, or
well, it's Mississippi River.
Yeah,
it was 3 blocks away from the home.
Okay.
There was cornfields, but no, I was literally, if you go to Sartell, across the street was the high school, and we had all the land there. I was on a dead end road back then. Now, I bet it was like, when I grew up there, I remember seeing 4,000 on the signs, and now there's like 20,000 people on the signs.
So it's a lot different now than it was back then.
A lot different.
So your family, you're fourth of 6.
Yeah.
And what's the age kind of range?
Well, let me just think. I got one 9 years older than me.
Okay.
And 6 years younger, so about 15 years.
Okay.
So about every 3 years or so, there was a kid coming around for the folks.
And did you guys all get along? And
yeah, you know what? It was fun to have a big family.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what? I would say, Mom would work 3 days a week. She had the part-time job. And, so then Little Lord of the Flies does come out. Just what it is. I always look at our storm door.
Yeah.
And our storm door, you're supposed to push a latch.
Yeah.
Well, that latch gets broken really quick. I remember running from my older brother, who's only 2 years older than me, but a lot bigger, a lot stronger, and I'd have to make a sprint for the door. And I knew if I could make it through the door and by the second mailbox, he wasn't running that far. That's when I would actually
that was the strategy.
That's when I would actually look back for the first time, was the second mailbox.
It sounds like experience taught you. Like, that's how far you needed to go.
Right. He wasn't mean.
Yeah.
Like, he wouldn't, it wasn't beating me up, but yeah, it was, when he got a hold of you, he would make sure he had, he did his thing, and that's what it was. Just fight.
Let's fast forward to your family now.
Yeah.
So, talk about your family.
Not much different there. 6 kids, but we have 5 boys, 1 girl, 4 of our own, from birth, and then we got a couple adopted from Sierra Leone, Africa.
Okay.
So another big family.
We'll kind of move from you growing up to where your family is now. But talk about growing up. You said you were into sports, so just hockey or other
sports. You know what? By the time I was in 7th grade, I think I was probably competed, and stayed at 8 different sports. So swimming, track, baseball, football, basketball, all basically pretty high level at, you just played sports. That's just what we did. We played sports, we fished, we hunted, we were outdoors. And so you just kind of, went through it. So the reason why I was hockey is because actually my swimming coach told me, we were swimming, and me and my brother were good swimmers. We once stayed in swimming, and the coach looked at my dad and says, his name's Kurt too, and he goes, Kurt, your kids are good at swimming, but they should probably play hockey. And my dad looks at him, he's like,
this is the swimming coach talking.
Yeah, like 8 years old. 8 years old, the coach told us this already. It was kind of crazy that he actually told us.
Yeah.
He's like, Kurt, if your kids are really good athletes, if they're good in swimming in Minnesota, they'll be average in the U.S. But he's like, if your kid's a good hockey player, all of a sudden, Minnesota's the state of hockey. And my dad thought about it because my dad actually played baseball in the
Yep.
minors for the Twins, had a
Okay.
scholarship for basketball that he passed up to play baseball, and he's a basketball, baseball, football guy.
Okay.
So he literally went to the hardware / sports store, Centennial Sports Hardware, with me and my brother,
Yeah.
and fit us out for gear, and
Like straight from hockey practice.
basically straight from swimming
like,
kind of deal. Yeah, threw
started
down
buying
a
hockey
credit
gear.
card. I think it was like, I thought I remember it being right around 420 some bucks,
Yeah.
because I never seen numbers like that come up on a cash register.
Yeah.
And he threw down a credit card. All of a sudden, away we went.
So trade in some Speedos for some skates.
Right.
I mean, that's
Embarrassing, right? Because all I had swimsuits back then, all the way through was a Speedo. So can you imagine?
So you're like, I
imagine
love
going to
hockey.
gym class in a Speedo. That's what my
Oh.
parents sent me in.
okay. This story could go a lot of different directions.
That's
Trying to
right,
figure out where
buddy.
we should go with it.
That's
But
right.
so was athletics ran through your whole family, or
Yep. So like I said, my dad was drafted by the Twins, played some minor leagues. Mom, obviously, there was really no sports that back then. But then I had a brother who played football in the NFL. My sister, I think when she quit high school, she was 8th all-time basketball in Minnesota history. And I had a brother that went to UMD for a year, but he got drafted by Nashville Predators in hockey.
Okay.
And then another brother got drafted by the New York Rangers and played hockey there. And then my little sister, she didn't do sports. She hurt her knees early on, like in 8th grade playing soccer. But she played soccer 7th, 8th grade.
Was sports something that you just caught because your dad, or was it something that was, pushed upon you to do, or you liked it?
You know what? I would say my oldest brother was more of a driver. If we had to do dishes.
Yep.
And I would team up with him, and he'd say, Kurt, if you go outside and play, I'll do dishes by myself. I was gone. Just like
What
that.
was that? What was it in it for him?
He would get to listen to whatever radio he wanted.
Okay.
Which, 2 Live Crew, my mom wasn't letting me listen to.
Okay.
So it was interesting that way.
Yeah.
But he also would send us outside. Like, he tells a story of my brother who's 2 years older than me. We would be catching fly balls.
Yeah.
He was 8 years old, running across the outfield, and he's hitting from home plate, and we'd be catching baseballs. And he's like, I had a slice on one. It started spinning. I'm like, oh, no. And Kent's running to the side and just gets clocked right in the head. And Mom saw it from the kitchen window, and it wasn't good. So that's just kind of the way we were. We used to run routes for my brother. So how many years? 72. I'm born 81. 9 years.
Okay.
So he'd be a junior or senior, and I'd be running football routes trying to catch his ball. And that's just what we did. Dad, nobody ever pushed it. We just played.
And you enjoyed it.
Loved it.
That's a lot of time commitment in sports, and I know that. And did you have any time to work? Did you work, or was it all practice?
Well, when you say work, like
Jobs,
I you know what? I was a grocery guy. 10th grade, I got a job when I was 16, stocking shelves at Coburn's.
Okay.
Did that for a little bit. I babysat for people my mom knew. So I always had the odd jobs, but basically that was my dad's deal. He's like, well, if you're in sports, you don't really have time, especially in high school.
Yeah.
But when we were young, like sports today with my kids, I drive them everywhere. Well, we just hopped on a bike. The only thing they drove us to was hockey. Baseball was across the street. Football was across the street. Everything's across the street where I grew up.
Okay.
So the small town feel of everybody knowing everybody able to get to where it was. I don't remember, even on a baseball game my dad was coming to watch, I would bike first to go warm up, and he would show up at game time to watch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So everything was close. So, it was just another thing of being outside. Mom would, when we were kids, my mom, which I appreciate, but she would lock the front door. And that's the only door that was locked, but that meant you can't come in the house. She'd just kick you out at around 8:30, 9 o'clock, and you'd be gone. And then she'd blow a referee whistle 3 times. You'd run home for lunch.
Yeah.
She'd send you out. She'd lock the door.
It sounds very active family, active in sports, and you worked. So it sounds like there's a lot of time was filled, but I love what you were saying. Like, this is pre-phones. Like, imagine how active people would be if we didn't have those devices, and you're talking about it. So after kind of growing up, middle school, high school, what you end up doing?
So high school, I pursued my hockey.
Okay.
I went senior
Let's go
year,
back though. With all the athletics, when did you just kind of narrow down and say, "This is hockey. I'm just going to be the hockey guy."
10th grade is when I quit
10th grade.
baseball. Yeah, 10th grade I played baseball. That year was miserable. We had I don't know what year it was. I could figure it out, but I remember we were in the snow stuck around forever. Literally, we were in the gym for a month to play outside baseball. They actually plowed the snow into the gaps.
Mm-hmm.
And Minnesota baseball, right? And it was miserable. It was cold that year, and from then on, I was like, man, that wasn't as fun as it was supposed to be.
Okay, so sophomore year, you're like, okay, hockey.
No more. Yep, no more baseball. I still played baseball in the summer.
Yep.
Still played Legion ball that way. Just didn't play varsity baseball. But yeah, from that it went on. So basically, you work out, you play hockey. Turns into it used to be only a 6 month a year sport, I would call it. You'd work out all year. Now people play everything year round.
Okay.
But it was a lot of fun. I went down to Iowa my senior, so I kind of bypassed my senior year of high school to go play junior A's, USHL it's called, down in Mason City, Iowa.
Okay.
Good experience. Led me to go to major juniors out in Washington, Spokane, Washington.
Okay.
Which is similar to college, kind of a different road other than college.
All right, and then that led you to, what was the next
Right.
step?
NHL.
Okay, so how old were you at this time?
When I went from 17-year-old year,
Yeah.
Mason City, 18, 19, 20 at Spokane, 21 in the NHL.
Okay, NHL drafted.
Drafted third round by Colorado Avalanche.
What year was this?
It would have been 99.
Okay.
Yep.
So talk about that. I mean, this is a lifetime of athletics leads to the work. You're going to juniors and you get drafted, pro hockey player in 1999, Colorado. Did you feel like you arrived at that point, or talk about? I'm not a pro athlete, but talk about that moment where you get drafted.
It was exciting.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're walking into.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it was. I didn't know what I was walking into. I didn't understand. You don't understand anything about business. You're a 20-year-old kid. You're just there playing hockey. And so even all the way through, you really don't understand you're a hockey player. And when you say arrived,
yeah,
I don't think I ever felt like I ever arrived because I was always just competing.
Yeah.
When like if you go to my career, I started out Anaheim. We did well. We went to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals and lost. Rookie season. Didn't know what I was into. Right there, if you said turn back time, what's one thing I would have told myself? I'm like, you better figure out how to enjoy this. Because I never got even close to it. You know what I mean? Winning the championship, winning the Stanley Cup. I never got close to it, and you're a rookie, so you don't even appreciate it. It almost happens too early because I wasn't even able to appreciate it. I was still wrapped up in just trying to keep up.
Yeah.
I wasn't the best on the team. We had superstars. We had Paul Correa, Adam Oates, J.S. Jaguar, Keith Carney, Sandus Ozil. We had these guys that were perennial veterans, all-stars. That year, our goalie had one of the best playoffs in NHL history. Is just what I got to play in front of.
Yeah.
He was the MVP of the playoffs on a losing team.
What position did you play?
Defense.
Okay.
But so when I look back at that, I wish I could have slowed down a little bit. But as anybody young, even when I was young in my family and I'd watch my brothers play, you're just trying to keep up.
Yeah.
You're just trying to keep up. That's, and so as a rookie, I was just trying to keep up, went to Game 7. Great experience. Wouldn't trade it for anything, but I'm like, man, if I could have had it like 4th or 5th year in the league, been able to enjoy it a little more, understand how special it truly was.
So you said your brothers played professional sports too.
Yep.
Were they in? Because they're older, right?
A couple older, one younger.
So they were already playing professional sports when you stepped in.
Yeah. So when I stepped in, my rookie year was 2002, 2003. My brother he was a football player. He used to break the wedge, but he just finished up his career. So like the Vikings with Gary Anderson, in the field goal, he was on the Atlanta team. And the following year, he was on the Vikings.
Okay.
So he was on the Atlanta team that went to the Super Bowl instead of the Vikes. So just kind of where history is. And then my little brother, when I had a career-ending injury, and my little brother just came into the league basically 2010. And so I would have
hockey.
Yeah, I would have played. I would actually. So then I would have been able to play my brother in the NHL, which would have been a great experience for us. But that year I got hurt in preseason.
Okay, talk about that. So you shared, getting to Game 7 early on. How many years did you play in the league?
We'll call it 7. Okay. 7 years of hockey. We had a lockout year, so it would have been like 8.
Okay. And you said career-ending injury. Can you say more about?
Yeah. You know what? It just I always, when I, looking back, I see people with a bad knee, people with bad backs, bad hips. Well, I just look at it a lot different than, that bad knee of Milan Hajduk, who was a 30, 50 goal scorer, made him a 30 goal scorer, just slowed him down. And that's the way kind of I feel people kind of find their way out is actually injury. The brain, the body says enough's enough, and then it just lets itself get hurt. Because I went into a boards very, very normal. Yeah. Guy coming in, guy puck's in front of me, guy pushing me from behind. You want to keep your space so you can keep the puck in front of you. Because if you push it against the boards, he just grabs the puck and you're on the wrong side. Anyway, so when he hit me, I just cross-checked the boards like this, and that was basically it. Done. Took away my eyes. So.
And that was, you said it was a preseason game?
Yep, 2009, 2010 preseason.
Okay, and then
that was a rough one. A rough one.
So in that, did you know in that moment that it?
I had 2 others like that or similar, or, where I actually had to miss time. Like people talk about head injuries, concussions. Yeah. That was the third one that I had that actually I missed time for, to count how many injuries or how many concussions anybody's had who's even played football in high school. Yeah. It's pretty crazy what they call a concussion now from what they call a concussion back then. Yeah. But basically what happened was the force went up. I have a bad shoulder. And it kind of went through that shoulder. It's interesting how force travels through injuries. And basically, your body's supposed to stop the force from ever getting into your head. Well, this thing rattled right up, went right through, took away my eyes. So people are like, what's that mean? And I'm like, well, if you think, where you can focus, like in TV, but in the old days, the black and white screen that wiggles, that's what I would have in the middle. And I just couldn't focus, so I couldn't track a puck. I didn't realize it. It actually took about 9 weeks, 10 weeks for just pain to come out.
So you didn't even
realize. I was just dazed. And so I couldn't track a puck. Played 2 more weeks. And I was asking guys, hey, where did this go through? It was tough because at that time I played 1-2 defensemen. So I played matchup D against the other team's best. So I was actually pretty good at what I did. Yeah. And what I was good at was kind of playing defense, actually blocking passes, intercepting passes, that kind of thing. And pucks were going right through the middle of my stick, yet I wasn't feeling them. So in my eyes, I saw them going right through my stick, and I couldn't figure it out. My legs didn't have jump. And long story short, I was a healthy scratch the second day. The first day, the coach wasn't he was a new coach. Dave Tippett, not a new coach for the NHL, new coach for our team. Yeah. And he wasn't going to sit me out. I had an A on my chest, assistant captain, this and that. And so he didn't want to lose the team, but I wasn't playing good. I remember not having any jump in my legs. All Samuelson, our assistant's like, Kurt, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know, Elf. I have no jump. And this is in 2 weeks. And he's like, I played in L.A., and I remember a guy going behind me. Alex Frolov was over my right shoulder. And he was over on my right shoulder. And all of a sudden, the puck goes through the middle. He's on a breakaway. I didn't even check. I wasn't even moving my head. I was just kind of almost guessing. Yeah. And so it was tough, healthy scratch. They made me the next day or next game, we had to do figure eights. And I did figure eights, and they made me do turns. And the equilibrium just went, and I just got the spins. So I couldn't really, and then I knew something was wrong. Just didn't know. And it wasn't about, I always tell people, I went through about 8-9 pillows trying to figure out why I couldn't get my neck comfortable. Yeah. Wake up 4 or 5 times a night thinking you just had to go to the bathroom. And all it was pain, but you didn't feel it yet.
Okay. So at what point did you realize, hey, this is more serious than I thought? And
well, right around there.
Okay.
Right around there, I didn't know what it was. and you trust doctors, and doctors tell you this, so I don't need to go more into it. But I don't think I took the right path even out of it.
Yeah.
And it was rough because it was even hard for me to be a dad at that point. The kids would run to play on the floor. I always tell people a blessing in disguise is if you think, Mike, I had 4 boys at the time, 6 to 1 years old.
Mm-hmm.
When would you like to take 4 years off? It's a good time.
Yeah.
Not be able to do a lot, but they at least have you.
Yeah.
So it was a good time.
No, I appreciate you just being real about that transition, but pointing it back to your family. Like I've got a 5 and 4 and 1 year old, and just dropped them off at the airport. And when I dropped my daughter off at kindergarten, and she runs around the front and says, "Love you, Dad," I'm like, there's gonna be a time when I drop her off at middle school, and she's gonna have me drop her off a block away. I'm like, right. To slow down and cherish those moments.
Right.
It sounds like that's a theme. Like looking back at your first year in the league, trying to slow down and enjoy those moments, or sometimes you get forced into slowing down to enjoy those moments. So looking back at that season of your life, what do you know now that you wish you would have told yourself when you're playing with your kids?
I guess. What do I know now? It would have been tough, because you didn't feel up to par.
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't run. So to say what I would tell myself, I guess it would be just relax. Just relax.
Yeah.
I used to watch my kids play in front of me,
and
they'd go from color to black and white to dark, and I'd go to sleep. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but my kids, that's what they knew.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sad, but it's all right.
No, and thanks for just walking through that, because I think a lot of times when people deal with transitions, whether it's forced like a pandemic or an injury, it's hard to process that transition.
Very, yeah.
And so I think we can learn a lot from just letting time do its thing.
Yeah.
And the transition from hockey to injury, how did you end up in real estate? Like, talk about that pathway, or what went on in between then and now.
Yeah, so, there was a few years that were extremely tough. And then I kind of came out of it, but during that time, we decided to adopt. So It took another 3 years for our independent adoption to go through in Sierra Leone. Yeah. We knew our little boy's mom when, she was pregnant with him, and we got him 3 years later. So it was a long process.
Yeah.
And so that even gave me a little more time to heal, to kind of figure life out a little bit. So it was 7 years basically until I started figuring out where I want to go and what I want to do.
So at that time, you were just focused on getting better.
Yeah, 4 years I couldn't do anything.
Yeah, so you couldn't do anything.
I was sitting in a recliner. I was sitting in a recliner watching my kids turn dark.
Okay.
So it was a rough life. Was I somewhat active? Yeah, I would be able to do about an hour. Like, I could coach my kids. I could watch hockey because I was good at it.
Yeah.
Hockey, I can basically coach a little kid and understand what he needs to do probably better than most, borderline blindfolded with a couple seconds watching him. So life was easy around a hockey rink, and so it was always quality versus quantity. I didn't have much time that I could give to my kids. I was around them a lot, but I couldn't be active very long.
Okay.
But anyways, what led me to real estate was basically, I invested small bits of real estate in the past, and it never went well, believe it or not. It never went well for me when I invested, whether it was with my brother or somebody else. It just never went well. And I'm like, well, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
That's not the way it is. And I loved real estate.
Yeah.
I do. I love it. Even back then, I used to, like people are on Zillow, the whole works, and people just look at, when I was in hockey, I used to just look on Zillow just for fun. So I didn't know exactly where I would go from there. And when I got back to Minnesota, I'm like, well, what am I going to do? And I'm like, well, what do I like?
Yeah.
So I went into real estate. That's
Okay.
kind of how it brought me into it. And I started off with a little bit residential, but basically worked my way into a commercial real estate job
And where was that?
at Cushman in Wakefield.
Okay.
And I was there for a couple of years.
And then when did you transition into to KLRE?
Well, right around when Chris actually branched off from Remax and went to KLRE,
Yeah.
I gave KLRE a call, and they said, "Yeah, we don't have any commercial guys." I'm like, "Well, I'd love to come work for you.
Did you
see
know
if I can."
when did you meet Chris?
Well, right around there.
Okay, so you didn't know him prior to that?
I didn't know much about anything prior to that, but I saw the marketing and saw what you did, and I was like, "Well, I wonder if these people have a commercial guy."
Okay.
And so I kind of came over here, worked with a gentleman, Daniel Beckius, who was here. Now he's in
Yep.
Colorado. And we went through the commercial and basically did commercial investment leads. And it's been good. It's been here 3 years now.
Okay. And you said you did some residential before that?
Yeah, it was a couple months of residential. I think I did 2 deals on this other team, but at the same time, I didn't think I was going to do residential.
Yeah.
So I didn't really, let's just say I didn't really work. I was working on getting interviews. I was working on getting in front of commercial people, understanding how to get a job moving forward there.
Okay. And what would you say, for people that are looking at doing commercial or both? Like, what do you like, or what do you like about commercial versus residential?
Well, I do personal leads usually when it comes to residential. So I do have a little bit of both. What I like numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I like numbers. I like understanding the needs. Are pretty black and white on commercial. For example, if you're doing a warehouse, it's a big box, and you can do a lot of things in a big box.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the best things is when you walk into a place that has a business in an industrial warehouse, you never know what you're going to see.
Yeah.
You see people, literally they have machines that wrap cones for 3M, and they put reflective tape for 3M, and there's a machine that they make that they sell to 3M, and you're like, was built right over in St. Louis Park. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you see those things, and then you have, you see like the e-commerce that are just racks upon racks.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just, people doing micro machining parts. So you never know. Industrial real estate's fun that way. As for investments, obviously multifamily, even the duplexes, the triplex 4 units are a lot of fun. And it helps me, understand the passive income, helps my clients get a little more passive income, which creates a little more freedom in the end.
Nice. What would you say, you have a different pathway to real estate than most other people I've talked to, professional athlete to doing this here. And I see you in the office all the time. And I love that. I mean, it means you're working and you're here. Talk about the rhythms and routines that keep you focused and keep you on point.
Well, the office helps. I always went to a locker room. I always went to the arena. I always went to a practice facility. So that hasn't changed in my eyes. This is kind of my locker room.
It just smells better here.
Yeah, it's way better. And you know what? And I get to see people.
Yeah.
And I talk to people, and even that they're residential, you can hear where they're at and what they're doing. And sometimes, every time, it's good to be reminded of certain things. Mm-hmm. So you're telling me you called this person, you followed up with this person how many times before you got them? Just to keep you motivated. Iron sharpens iron that way. So that's what I appreciate about coming in the office. And usually it's there's a few people who come in and out that are more new, but it's usually kind of the same group that must feel a little bit like me. Yeah. Where it helps them to be around people doing deals, kind of in a bullpen.
Yeah. It's fun just to pop in here, and I'm like, well, I'm sure I'm going to see Kurt today. It's good.
Yeah. Sure, it's a highlight of your day.
and the thing is, I think that helps create the culture when you see people and you recognize people and you build that community. And so I think you're a huge part of that here. And when you think about KLRE for you, what keeps you here? What keeps you part of this team?
You know what? I like the hearts. Mm-hmm. I love, like I was mentioning, the industrial real estate. I love walking in and seeing what I'm going to see. And in the end, it's still industrial real estate. And I love when I see these people, because you talk to them and they all come from different areas, and yet we're all doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. And everybody has a big heart. Yeah. The people that I know, like I know I just saw the interview or part of the interview with Brandy. Huge heart.
Yeah.
Jamie Kenton, big heart. You know, you go around and you can see the hearts of the people. It's not just all about, you know, everybody needs to make money. Everybody needs a job, but money only lasts so long.
Yeah.
You know, I think relationships are why I'm here and why I like it, why I enjoy it.
And I would say that's been fun to see people building relationships, and there is not that competitive spirit. I really feel like there is a spirit of celebration when someone succeeds, and that's what's really unique about this place is like there's an abundance mindset that says, hey, your success doesn't mean that I can't succeed. It just inspires me to do more.
And I guess that's, you know, Chris, Angela, they always keep enough food on the table for everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody's fighting. There's plenty out there. That's what I always feel. There's plenty out there.
And
it's, you know, when I was at Remax in the beginning, I didn't even know how to get a lead.
Yeah.
Nor did I try to get one. In Cushman and Wakefield, I cold call every day, 60 people minimum to try to find leads.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I come here and you just quick slack it.
So you went from a big family growing up to a big family here at KLRE.
Yeah.
And no, I just appreciate your time, and just I can hear the passion in what you're doing, and so I just I'm excited to see your continued growth here, and just know that you're such an important part of this team here at KLRE.
Appreciate for having me, CJ.
Thank you.